Oi! Sorry, give me a second. What's up, gamers? Get this on. Oh god, that's loud! Okay. Questions really do beat answering. He's so right. The ebb really do be esotericing. Esoteric? Gia-ing? Esoteric-ing? That's not the right word. What's the word? If something is esotericing, if something is in the process of being esoteric, God, easy. Esoteric-ing? Esoteric-ing. Something like that. You get it. You know what it's about. Hello everybody, we're back again. Alright. How's everybody's Sunday been? Hope everybody went to church this morning. I hope everybody said their like Hail Marys and Our Fathers and all that nonsense. Today we are discussing State and Rev. If you didn't read the paper, I don't know what to tell you. It's been a week. How's it been? Did? Excellent. Sure was a long read? Not as long as the Cuba one. Unless you're talking about reading all of State and Revolution, in which case I'm impressed. Because reading all of State and Revolution in a week where you're like busy with stuff is always like, wow, nice job. Alright, so we are gonna be covering State and Revolution today. Just the RCA's perspective on it, their most recent perspective on it. I should be quite clear that at the current moment, all of the RCA, all of the Revolutionary Communists of America, all of over 1,000 of us, we're having a American Congressional at the end of next month. I have a plane ticket. I'm gonna be at that Congressional in Philadelphia. I bought my RCA ticket, so I'm gonna be there. I'm not gonna be doing much. I'm just gonna be sitting and listening probably, and then enjoying a Philly cheesesteak sandwich. We are currently entering at the RCA the pre-Congress period, and what that means is that if you had any intention of going to like a cell meeting or anything like that, and you haven't joined yet, you're probably gonna have to wait till the end of next month. Because they recently put out the documents that all the cells will be covering, and we're just going to be doing that. No contacts are always invited, of course, but no, we would prefer contacts not come because we're come to any cell meetings, because at the current moment we are in a like internalization period within the party. And there's like a 25-page document that the Central Committee, or the Executive Committee rather, not the Central Committee, the Central Committee votes on it, that the Executive Committee put out. And every cell in the country is currently looking over those documents throughout the next month, you know? And that's all that's going to be discussed. So, if you had any intention of joining the RCA, now is definitely, like, of course, the time to do it. But don't expect the door to be open for you this month, at least. This upcoming month, starting like this week. Because we're going to be doing some internalization. Oh my god. It's gonna be intense. I'll tell you that much. If you think of political, I mean, this is also part of like this is also part of the democratic part of the democratic centralism. It's an expression of it. The centralism part is that our executive committee and our central committee put out like documents and stuff for each cell to like look at. The democratic part is that we we deliberate on what it's about, and then we adjust it, and then we send it back to them. And then they accept it, and then we go from there. You know, every cell sort of partakes in that affect. our democratic process is less about like putting a ballot in a box. Eventually, as the party gets bigger, there will definitely be voting in like a democratic process like that. But at the current moment, it's a deliberative process. The RCA's democratic form comes in the form of sitting in a cell, and that can range from like 4 to 20 people usually. Usually when it's on the upper end of like 10, they try and split the cell. But the democratic process comes from, if you're in a cell, then you deliberate with the people around you until you come to a conclusion, until you come to like a political conclusion. And that's the democratic process. But all right. With that being said, that's what the RCA is going through right now, a very large month-long internalization period, because the Congress in Philadelphia is coming up. I have a lot to do this month, let me tell you, before I can ship out to Philadelphia. But this was actually last week's document. There probably won't be a discussion for like the next month, I think, at least as long as we are covering this document, because there's not really anything to discuss that isn't internal to the party. So I will try to find a doc. I mean, they're constantly going to be putting these things out, so I will definitely try to find an article that is like relevant to like the comings and goings of life, you know, that we can discuss. State and revolution is obviously on the map all the time. But I think we should just get into it. With that out of the way. With the RCA's going-ons out of the way. So, this was the IDOM for July 20th, 2024. Rekindling Communism, the Significance of Lenin's The State and Revolution. If you haven't read State and Revolution, it's a good read. I'll have to read it again one of these days. But we're gonna get like a pretty slim gist of it. In August 1917, the Russian Revolution stood at a crossroads. The Bolshevik Party had been driven underground. Lenin was in hiding, his life under threat. But it was at this perilous and uncertain moment that he delved into theory, producing arguably his most famous work. The importance of the state and revolution for the communist movement cannot be overstated. It saved the genuine ideas of Marxism from the wreckage of social democracy and lit the way for the socialist revolution. Today, it should be considered a foundational text for the communist movement, along with Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto. And, of course, the IDOM, in defense of Marxism. The question of the state had assumed enormous importance during the First World War. In the course of the conflict, the repressive military and bureaucratic apparatuses of the contending imperialist powers had become all-consuming, and even the most democratic imperialist states had been transformed into little more than military convict prisons for the workers, to use Lenin's evocative expression. At the same time, the clarification of the Marxist theory of the state had never been more urgent. For decades, the theorists of the Marxist Second International had obscured the genuine ideas of Marx and Engels in relation to the state, rounding off its revolutionary edges. This gradual accumulation of small revisions was transformed into an open betrayal of Marxism and workers of the world in 1914, when almost all the social democratic parties supported their own state and their own ruling classes in the imperialist slaughter. It was in the context that Lenin began an in-depth study of Marx and Engels' writing on the state in 1916, while in exile in Switzerland. He recognized that the resurrection of the world's workers' movement must proceed from the clearest possible understanding of its tasks, which had been deliberately obscured in the previous period. As Lenin writes, the struggle to free the working class from the influence of the bourgeoisie in general, and of the imperialist bourgeoisie in particular, is impossible without a struggle against opportunist prejudices concerning the state. The outbreak of the Russian Revolution in March, February old-style calendar, 1917 interrupted Lenin's work on the state, but he retained his voluminous notes, intending to write up the work at a later date. The overthrow of Tsar Nicholas II had led to the establishment of a republic led by a provisional government tasked with carrying out the democratic demands of the masses, such as convening a constituent assembly elected by universal suffrage and land reform. But in addition to the provisional government, the workers and soldiers, who were largely drawn from the peasantry, had established their own democratic assemblies called Soviets. Discussion Sundays, indeed. I love to use Sundays as an experimental point, Jerry, it seems. You gotta mix it up once in a while. The question thus presented itself. What position should the workers' parties take in the relation to the provisional government? And what role should the Soviets play in the new republic? To this question, the Mensheviks replied that in the conditions of Russia, the workers could not and should not go further than the establishment of a bourgeois, that is, a capitalist republic, and so their role must be essentially to help the provisional government establish a parliamentary regime similar to Western Europe and then seek to form a government that could carry out pro-worker reforms in the future. The revolution, according to them, had achieved all it could. The task of the working class was now to defend what had already been achieved. Lenin, by contrast, had put forward the slogan, "All power to the Soviets," in April 1917, and won the rest of the Bolshevik Party through this line, for the overthrow of the provisional government by the Soviets and the establishment of a workers' government supported by the peasantry. Either the Republic would succeed in crushing the revolutionary workers, reverting to a military dictatorship, or the workers would overthrow the Republic. There was no middle way. This conflict burst to the fore in July 1917 when the democratic government brutally suppressed a workers' demonstration, citing a coup attempt by the Bolsheviks. The Bolshevik Party's press was smashed and warrants were issued for the arrest of its leaders. It was clear that if Lenin were caught, he would not live long enough to stand trial, so he was smuggled out of Petrograd to Finland, where he was presented not only with the opportunity, but the urgent necessity of writing his work on the state. The fate of the revolution hung in the balance. Any theoretical confusion in the leadership of the Revolutionary Party could lead to catastrophe. The pivotal questions confronted in this theoretical work were reflected in its full title, The State and Revolution, the Marxist Theory of State and the Tasks of the Proletariat in the Revolution. The urgency of these questions also comes across in Lenin's writing. His passion for the ideas and their role in the struggle, as well as his indignation at the distortion of Marx and Engels by the social democratic leaders, leap out of the page and take hold of the reader. Oh god. Now here's a question for you. What even is the state? From the jungle to communism, the years have passed. Indeed. I mean, we should have seen it coming, right? Literally starting at the jungle. I don't think you could start at Sinclair and have enough, you know? There's gotta be more. What is the state? Lenin begins his pamphlet with the most fundamental questions, the nature of the state itself. To answer it, he draws from Frederick Engels' masterpiece, The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State. It is commonly assumed that kings, police, armies, and the borders they fight over have always existed, as they reflect the innate greed or unruliness of human nature. Without them, mankind would have annihilated itself long ago, or so the story goes, but this is not so. Basing himself on the most advanced anthropological studies of the time, Engels demonstrated that, in fact, thousands of years ago, the state simply did not exist. The political functions we associate with the state were carried out by the community as a whole, while all leaders subject to the authority of the people. Since Engels published his book in '84, countless studies and excavations have proven him right. The state is something that has emerged at a certain stage of historical development, and Engels identified that this stage coincided with the division of society into antagonistic classes of haves and have-nots. The community as a self-acting armed organization had become impossible, because in Lenin's words, civilized society is split into antagonistic and, moreover, irreconcilably antagonistic classes, whose self-acting arming would lead to an armed struggle between them. Out of the community thus emerge special bodies of armed men having prisons, etc., at their command. Engels explains, but in order that these antagonisms, these classes with conflicting economic interests might not consume themselves in society in fruitless struggle, it became necessary to have a power, seemingly standing above society, that would alleviate the conflict and keep it within the bounds of order, and this power, arisen out of society but placing itself above it and alienating itself more and more from it, is the state. But what is meant by order? Is the state an impartial arbiter which neutralizes the struggle between the classes and reconciles their opposing interests under the law, justice, and so on? Not at all, as Engels explains. As the state arose from the need to keep class antagonisms in check, but also arose in the thick of the fight between the classes, it is normally the state of the most powerful, economically ruling class, which by its means becomes also the politically ruling class, and so acquires new means of holding down and exploiting the oppressed class. The state is therefore not some kind of neutral judge or forum in which the classes humbly submit their claims and appeal to justice, reason, and so on. It is itself an instrument of class oppression, of maintaining the rule of one class over another and holding the latter under the established conditions of exploitation. The Roman Republic was ultimately an instrument for holding down the slaves, the feudal state was an instrument for holding down the serfs, and the modern representative state is an instrument for exploiting wage labor by capital, adds Engels. I would also like to note that the formation of the state also occurs as surplus sort of builds up, and we talked about this the last time we talked about the state. Farming sucks. Farming has always sucked, so if you have like a class of people who can take advantage of like the extra surplus over the farmers, then you have yourself a formation of like a state. Ooh. Democracy. But haven't the significant reforms that have been won by the working class over centuries, such as universal suffrage, transformed the modern state from an instrument of class exploitation into the genuine representative society as a whole? Today, in many parts of the world, all citizens over a certain age, irrespective of class or gender, may vote for their representatives in parliament, and even stand for elections themselves. In theory, therefore, any idea or program could become the policy of the nation, provided it wins over public opinion. In actual fact, as Engels explains, wealth here employs its power indirectly, but all the more surely. Lenin describes the democratic republic as the best possible shell for capitalism, as the most effective instrument for the class rule of the bourgeoisie. Every worker will know from experience that even in the most democratic of capitalist states, the exploited masses are prevented from participating in politics by the very conditions created by their exploitation. Even those workers who devote what spare time they can to political activity find their rights curtailed in practice by a million petty barriers, such as the lack of free meeting spaces or the various tricks used by the establishment in relation to voter registration and the gerrymandering of constituency boundaries, for example. Therefore, in the vast majority of cases, elections are little more than a circus, in which members of the ruling class and their paid representatives perform all kinds of tricks for the votes of the more respectable layers of the population who turn out on election day. Once elected, our representatives are then free for 4 or 5 years to represent or misrepresent their electors in whatever they like. Election promises are promptly thrown to the wind. The vast majority of the population are relegated to the role of sullen spectators, assuming they even bother to watch the tawdry spectacle. Meanwhile, the capitalists are able to exert a constant and direct influence over Parliament and the government far beyond election season, with their funding of political parties and the lobbying, corruption, of the politicians from all parties. As none other than Donald Trump boasted in 2015, I was a businessman, I give to everybody. When they call, I give. And you know what? When I need something from them, 2 years later, 3 years later, I call them. And they are there for me. He then called this a broken system, but considering that Engels wrote of direct corruption of officials in the USA as far back as 1884, it seems the system had been working just fine from the standpoint of the American capitalists. Oh god, I'm gonna throw up. Excuse me. Further, oh god. The capitalist class exercises control over the state through its ownership of all mass media outlets, which pressurizes all governments and parties through their manipulation of so-called public opinion, and in some cases by outright blackmail. One need only look at the servile attitude of all British prime ministers towards Rupert Murdoch and his billion-dollar media empire to see whose vote really counts in British so-called democracy. In Lenin's words, democracy for an insignificant minority, democracy for the rich. That is the democracy of capitalist society. Beyond the media, the very existence of capitalist production as the foundation of the economy exerts a constant, unbending pressure on any government. This fact was brought vividly to the fore during the brief government of Liz Truss in Britain. The fact that Truss was a right-wing lover of Margaret Thatcher didn't change the fact that any government that carries out policies that threaten the profits of the capitalists will be confronted with economic and financial instability caused by the consequent loss of confidence amongst the capitalists. Either the government will change course, or it will be toppled, in Truss's case by her own party, in order to stabilize the economy. All the above is largely concerned with the elected parliamentary arm of the state, but it must not be forgotten that this constitutes one part of, and not the most important part, of the state. The actual business of government is not carried out by elected, accountable politicians or parties, but by a large state bureaucracy, which operates beyond the sight, let alone control, of the working class. There's a revolving door between the top positions in the civil service and the major capitalist monopolies and the banks, which ensures that, in normal periods, the people who actually operate the machinery of the state are completely aligned with the interest of the class with which they are a part of. That is to say nothing of the unaccountable judiciary, police chiefs, and above all, the generals in charge of the special bodies of armed men that make up the most essential repressive arm of the state. These layers are overwhelmingly drawn directly from the ranks of the ruling class, and irrespective of their origin, they are then groomed over decades of constant association and accommodation with the capitalist establishment. And even the most democratic state under capitalism, all so-called independent institutions, meaning independent from the working class, act as a check on elected governments. They act as reserve weapons of the ruling class, which can act to undermine and even overthrow elected governments in the event that the elected arm of the state should throw up a government which does not toe the line. Finally, at times, the ruling class has been prepared to hand over power to the armed bodies of men directly to install open military police dictatorships as a kind of short-circuit mechanism. In the event that the masses are threatened to overload the narrow circuits of bourgeois democracy, let us not forget that the capitalists of Italy, Germany, Spain, and France all preferred to live under fascism than to risk a successful revolutionary movement of the working class. It was precisely this outcome that the Russian ruling class was preparing for. While Lenin was writing The State and Revolution in Finland, Lenin describes how the democratic government of Kerensky was already beginning to persecute the revolutionary proletariat. He adds that Kerensky was even attempting to establish the rule of the sword over all classes, due to the inability of the bourgeois to disperse the Soviets, which had not yet taken power themselves. He compared this deadlock to that which produced the Bonapartist dictatorships of Napoleon I and III in France and of Bismarck in Germany. But this is just a prelude to an even more serious threat, the attempted coup of General Kornilov in August 1917, which aimed at nothing less than the liquidation of all the gains of the revolution and the restoration of Tsarism. Oh, the dictatorship of the proletariat. Being elected in Brazil. If the modern bourgeois state is ultimately nothing more than an instrument of exploitation of wage labor by capital, then how can this be used to liberate the working class and all oppressed people? It can't, answers Lenin. It must be broken and smashed. This bold language was not some ultra-left innovation on Lenin's part. It came directly from Marx himself, who repeated it on many occasions. In April 1871, while the Paris Commune was fighting for its life, Marx wrote in a letter to his comrade Ludwig Kugelmann, "If you look at the last chapter of my 18th Brumaire, you will find that I declare that the next attempt of the French Revolution will be no longer, as before, to transfer the bureaucratic military machine from one hand to another, but to smash it." Marx's italics, the original is Zerbrechen. And this is the precondition for every real people's revolution on the continent. And this is what our heroic party comrades in Paris are attempting. A year later, Marx and Engels decided to add the following update to the Communist Manifesto in the preface to the New German edition. One thing especially was proven by the Commune, viz., that the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. What is to replace the pre-existing state, once it has been smashed? To this question, an anarchist may well answer nothing, or the self-organization of the people as a whole. But this answer would ignore a very important and unavoidable fact, that the day after the smashing of the bourgeois state, the people will continue to be divided into classes just as before. The seizure of power by the working class, by the working, does not put an end to the class struggle. It intensifies it. The recently deposed ruling class will stop at nothing to re-establish its class rule and its state. This was proven by the crushing of the Paris Commune in 1871, which only took power in a single city and has been proven many times over since. In such conditions, the only way in which the revolutionary masses can even survive the counter-revolutionary onslaught is by forming their own organizations to hold down, disarm, and utterly destroy the resistance of their former exploiters. In other words, they will require an instrument for the oppression of one class by another. A state. Marx called this form of state the dictatorship of the proletariat, as opposed to the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. However, for the first time in history, this form of state would be an instrument for the oppression of a minority by the overwhelming majority of society. Further, the proletariat, as the new ruling class, has no property or privileges to defend. Its class interests lie in the nationalization of all property and the planning of production to meet the needs of all. For these reasons, the dictatorship of the proletariat in no way resembles the state under capitalism, including its parliamentary forms. Drawing on Marx's analysis of the Paris Commune, the first worker state in history, Lenin sketched out the principal features of such a state. First, the abolition of standing armies and their replacement with the armed people. Instead of a special public force hanging over the rest of society like a sword of Damocles, the suppression of the external and internal enemies of the workers' state would be entrusted to a national militia, armed and organized by the state with an extremely short term of service. The state itself would be made up of democratic assemblies in every neighborhood, including the smallest country hamlet, which would administer their own local affairs and elect delegates to wider district and national assemblies, constituting a single unified workers' republic. Lenin highlights Engels' supplementary remarks on this question, in which he leaves open the possibility that, in conditions where significant national differences or antagonisms are present, a federal republic could be a progressive step forward towards a single workers' republic at a later stage. Interestingly, Engels puts Britain forward as an example where this might apply, although on the surface the national question has seemingly been resolved there. It is clear that in quoting Engels, Lenin was thinking carefully about his own country, Russia, which contained over 130 recognized national groups. The assemblies, or communes, that were to make up the state would not be purely representative, parliamentary bodies, but working bodies, executive and legislative at the same time. All public officials would be the elected and accountable officials of the local or national assemblies, paid an ordinary worker's wage, including civil servants, judges, police, etc. Further, all delegates and public officials would be subject to the right of recall at all times, meaning that if they failed to represent the people who elected them or did not carry out their duties to the required standard, they could be quickly and democratically replaced. In this way, Marx explains, instead of deciding once in 3 or 6 years which member of the ruling class was to misrepresent the people in Parliament, universal suffrage was to serve the people, constituted in communes, as individual suffrage serves every other employer in the search for the workmen and managers in his business. From the brief but vivid sketch that Lenin provides, it is clear that the dictatorship of the proletariat would dismantle not only the bureaucratic and repressive arms of the old bourgeois state, but also its democratic forms, such as parliamentarianism, whilst actually expanding a new and much more thorough form of democracy, proletarian or workers' democracy. Finally, Lenin insists that these political measures acquire their full meaning and significance only in connection with the expropriation of the expropriators, either being accomplished or in preparation, i.e., with the transformation of capitalist private ownership of the means of production into social ownership. In other words, the political forms of proletarian democracy are absolutely incompatible with the continued concentration of the means of production in the hands of property-owning minority. Ultimately, one must destroy the other, but in transferring capitalist property into social ownership, workers' democracy thus invades the last and most important stronghold of capitalist rule, the workplace. Lenin was not dealing here with a far-off utopia. Several times in the State and Revolution he points to the Soviets of Workers and Soldiers' Deputies, which had been established from the ground up during the Russian Revolution as the specifically Russian form of the commune described by Marx. From this, he concluded explicitly that the Soviets must dismantle the bourgeois republic that had replaced the Tsar in March 1917 and replace it with a republic of Soviets of Workers and Soldiers' Deputies. This was the real, urgent meaning of the Bolshevik slogan, all power to the Soviets. In many of the revolutions of the 20th and 21st centuries, where the working classes stood at the fore, we see similar embryonic organs of workers' power have been thrown up alongside the old state apparatus, starting as strike committees, self-defense committees, or other ad hoc organizations, creating a situation of what Lenin called dual power. Today, as of 1917, these revolutionary committees or assemblies represented a direct threat to the class rule of the bourgeoisie, which is why in every revolution the ruling class and its agents seek to divide, demoralize, and eventually destroy these bodies as quickly as possible. The goal of the communists, on the other hand, must be to strengthen and spread them, turning them into a national movement capable of toppling the old state, however democratic it might claim to be. Whoa. Whoa. I get a drink of water, dude. The state under socialism. The working class must therefore seize political power from the bourgeoisie, dismantle the pre-existing state structures and replace them with its own organs for the expropriation of the exploiters and the suppression of their violent resistance, the dictatorship of the proletariat. And in doing so, the working class lays the basis for the rapid development of the productive forces and with it, the socialist transformation of society. For this reason, Marx called the dictatorship of the proletariat the political form at last discovered under which the economic emancipation of labor could be accomplished. But if the state is ultimately special bodies of armed men, standing above society, and the worker state envisioned by Marx, Engels, and Lenin is made up of armed people, excluding the former ruling class, under the direction of the broadest possible form of democracy, to what extent can this even be considered a state? To the extent that the dictatorship of the proletariat is an armed organization of one class, which holds down and represses another, it remains a state. To the extent that the former functions of the state's military bureaucratic machinery are dissolved into the self-acting organizations of the people as a whole, it is not a state. Therefore, the worker state necessarily has a revolutionary and transient form. To use Marx's expression, Lenin calls it a semi-state. Unlike all previous forms of class rule, the dictatorship of the proletariat does not and cannot aim at the permanent subjugation and exploitation of any particular class. The more it succeeds in spreading the revolution and breaking the resistance of the former exploiters, the more society as a whole is converted into the mass of state employees working as part of a common democratic plan of production, socialism. What would the role of the state be in such a society? The state withers away insofar as there are no longer any capitalists, any classes, and consequently no class can be suppressed, answers Lenin. But so long as humanity's productive forces have not yet created a society of abundance, and so do not allow for the satisfaction of all need, so long as a division of labor persists which privileges mental labor over physical labor, then some degree of inequality will remain, even under socialism, and the distribution of wealth and labor will still require some form of administration. Lenin adds, the state will be able to wither away completely when society adopts the rule, from each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. i.e., when people have become so accustomed to observing the fundamental rules of social intercourse, and when their labor has become so productive that they will voluntarily work according to their ability. Marx calls this the higher stage of communism. Lenin explains that the aim of communists is therefore ultimately identical to that of anarchists, the abolition of the state. Where we differ fundamentally is on how we can get there. Anarchists wish to leap immediately from capitalism to a stateless society without removing the material basis for the state. In this respect, anarchism is completely utopian. Further, anarchists throughout history have strenuously discouraged the working class from seizing state power, which invariably has left power in the hands of the ruling class. In this sense, it is reactionary, as it only serves to disarm the workers in their struggle against the bourgeois and its state. A completely classless, stateless society of abundance is not something that can be created by any political reform. It requires decades of rapid economic development and the flourishing of a generation of human beings that have never known the barbarous conditions of capitalist exploitation and oppression, which have left an indelible imprint on the outlook of all those who living today. Until that time, the socialists demand the strictest control by society and by the state over the measure of labor and the measure of consumption. But Lenin emphasizes that this control must start with the expropriation of the capitalists, with the establishment of workers' control over the capitalists, and must be exercised not by a state of bureaucrats, but by a state of armed workers. These lines acquire a double significance in the light of Lenin's struggle against the budding Soviet bureaucracy during his last years. Rather than concentrating the task of administration in the hands of a clique of state bureaucrats, socialism would see that these tasks distributed amongst the entire population, which would be more than capable of executing them with the universal education and training. In this way, Lenin concludes, under socialism, all will govern in turn, and will soon become accustomed to no one governing, eventually leading to the disappearance of the state in any form whatsoever. Truly. Reformism or revolution? One would think, therefore, that the Marxist position on this question was about as clear as could be when Lenin wrote his pamphlet in 1917. But in putting forward this argument, supported by extensive quotations from Marx and Engels, Lenin was combating a sustained campaign to hide and distort the real views of the founders of scientific socialism on the state, which had been waged within the social democratic movement for decades. During a prolonged period of capitalist upswing at the end of the 19th century, the bosses of Europe had granted a number of significant political and economic reforms to the workers. Mass social democratic parties of the working class were allowed to stand in the elections, and won millions of votes. In this context, the idea gained ground that it was possible to simply continue reforming the capitalist state until it had been completely democratized, and the economy transformed gradually in accordance with the interests of the working class, while the bosses would meekly respect the will of the majority. Further, the leadership of the labor movement in the advanced capitalist countries began to be essentially bought off by the bosses, becoming privileged persons divorced from the people and standing above the people, as Lenin puts it. Increasingly, members of this aristocracy of labor saw their role as mediators between the classes, negotiators, as opposed to the leaders striving for the class rule of the proletariat. The Marxist leaders of the Socialist International were not immune from these petty bourgeois prejudices, which elevated the state and democracy above the class struggle, and lulled the workers with fairy tales of gradual, peaceful reform. Edward Bernstein was one of the most prominent representatives of this tendency, which Engels had earlier described as opportunism. The forgetting of the principal considerations for the momentary interests of the day. Bernstein was initially opposed by the leading theoreticians of the Socialist International, such as Karl Kautsky, but the latter assiduously avoided any reference to the essential question of whether the working class should simply form a government under a bourgeois parliamentary regime, or whether it should smash the regime altogether. Whilst they repeated Engels' ideas that in a classless society, the state would eventually wither away, influential figures like Plekhanov and Kautsky failed to mention that this would only take place after the expropriation of the capitalist class and the destruction of the old capitalist state machinery by revolutionary means. By this sleight of hand, the theoretical possibility was therefore left open for the working class to come to power in a bourgeois parliamentary regime and then succeed in eliminating class antagonisms until the state became redundant and withered away, presenting in this way the need for revolution evaporates. This theoretical capitulation to the bourgeois state was translated into practice in 1914 when all of the social democratic parties, with the exception of the Russians and the Serbs, voted in favor of war credits to assist their own imperialists in the industrial slaughter of millions of workers, in order to redivide the monstrous oppression of the colonies amongst the European powers. In State and Revolution, Lenin identifies the question of the state as the fundamental dividing line between genuine Marxism, communism, and reformist opportunism. It was due to their clinging to bourgeois democracy that the Mensheviks and so-called Socialist Revolutionary Party in Russia were not socialists at all, but petty bourgeois democrats using near-socialist phraseology. Only he is the Marxist who extends the recognition of the class struggle to the recognition of the dictatorship of the proletariat, explains Lenin. This is the touchstone on which the real understanding and recognition of Marxism should be tested. Today, the same reformist outlook is completely dominant within the old social democratic parties and so-called democratic socialist organizations around the world. The renunciation of the dictatorship of the proletariat in favor of the parliamentary road to socialism has led inevitably to the complete abandonment of socialism in any form. The social democratic leaders today claim that their goal is simply fairness, jobs, a better future, and other empty phrases. Once in power, they are keen to prove that they can even manage capitalism better even than the boss's own parties. Just stop playing Stalker Anomaly, so it's fitting to see this. However, we've seen a number of parties, movements, and honest individuals to their left in recent years, many such as Bernie Sanders and the Democratic Socialists of America, Jeremy Corbyn in Britain, Syriza in Greece, call themselves democratic socialists rather than social democrats. They point at the class differences in society. Some even talk about the need for socialism. What is democratic about these democratic socialists? They see parliamentary democracy as something above class division. They do not see it as an instrument of class oppression, but as a means to rebalance society and a hollowed line which must not be crossed. Socialism for them becomes limited to what is possible within the bourgeois democracy, which is inevitably limited to that which is acceptable to the capitalist system, upon which the state is based. All these movements have thus ended in failure. In recalling the failures of modern left reformism, we should keep in mind Lenin's prophetic words in The State and Revolution. Opportunism limits recognition of the class struggle to the sphere of bourgeois relations. As far back as 1848, in the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels derided this bourgeois socialism. The fact that some of the leaders of these formations honestly wanted to end the capitalist exploitation does not fundamentally change anything. As Engels put it in 1891, the sacrifice of future of the movement for its present may be honestly meant, but it is and remains opportunism, and honest opportunism is perhaps the most dangerous of all. In the long run, such a policy can only lead your own party astray. A light in the dark. Lenin always regarded the struggle for theoretical clarity as an essential part of the life of a revolutionary party, but he never treated this as an academic exercise. In the last analysis, theory is and must always be a guide to action. This relationship between theory and practice is epitomized in The State and Revolution. In fact, Lenin never completed the last planned chapter, analyzing the 1905 and 1917 revolutions in Russia, precisely because he had to rush back to Petrograd in order to lead the very seizure of power that he had been arguing for in the book. This fact in no way reduces the value of The State and Revolution as a work of Marxist theory. If anything, it enhances it. It is impossible to overstate the importance of this concise pamphlet to the arsenal of communism, which is comparable to that of the Communist Manifesto, the founding document of our movement. In carefully studying the writings of Marx and Engels, in bringing the Marxist theory of the state together in a clear, coherent argument, and in applying it so successfully to the complex and dangerous situations of the time, Lenin performed a permanent, inestimable service for the world working class. In a single work, Lenin salvaged Marxism from under a pile of dirt which had been heaped on it over decades of distortions, and he saved the Russian Revolution, which was facing a catastrophe, by lighting the way by which the working class could push forward, overthrow the counter-revolutionary provisional government, and establish Soviet rule. He also secured the future of the world's workers' movement, providing the theoretical basis for an international organization of communist parties throughout the world, the Communist International, founded in 1919. Today, the International no longer exists, and the communist parties, founded on the ideas of Lenin, have suffered a reformist degradation even more shameful than that of the social democracy. It is necessary to re-establish the real traditions of communism and found a new worldwide party of revolution, and in doing so, we must return to the works like State and Revolution and study them with diligence, with which Lenin studied Marx and Engels. As in 1917, the State and Revolution continues to light the way for revolutionary communists the world over. Fuck, dude. All right, everybody. That was a modern analysis of why State and Revolution is important. So, what do we think? My take, I guess to apply my own theory as like a precursor, as like something that drives to action rather than as an academic rigor, is the fact that At the wine tasting that I hosted a couple of days ago, I was corroborating with one of my fellow coworkers about workers' democracy, and they felt it in themselves that establishing the union as it is now, establishing combinations as they are now, is too small time. It's too small to ever like acquire like real power. You know, we have to work within means and have like divided tactics and such. And the problem with all of that is that obscures like an actual like tacit argument for like an international project, for a revolutionary project, by accepting things like pushing for like democratic progressive leaders such as Mamdani or Katie Wilson or AOC or Bernie Sanders. What ends up happening is that they end up being captured by bourgeois facilitators. You know, the unelected, like they could be communists for all I know. It wouldn't matter, because the people that they are surrounded by are capitalists, are liberals, are conservatives, you know? The unelected bureaucratic apparatus of the state. You know, I mean, you don't have to be elected to be like a foreman at an Amtrak, or not Amtrak, at a like a government agency like the DEA. You know, you don't have to be elected to be like a lead in that process. You just have to like work your way up to it, and that means you are removed from the proletarian initiation ritual. You know, you become a professional state bureaucratic class that is in service to whoever pays you the most, which would be the capitalist class, you know? Everything becomes obscured. Another layer is added on to, another layer to complicate and muddy the waters of revolutionary doctrine. There's a lot of workers right now that would love the idea of a union, but they don't see themselves as the prodigal son to overthrowing capitalism. Pretty difficult to implement, but very slowly possible. Historically speaking, I think Trotsky puts it is it's much like an earthquake, I think. I think an earthquake is the best example that I can give to you about how revolutions occur, about how societal changes occur. It is that like there are very slow subducting and abducting like terrestrial plates that happen on Earth, you know? Like say like two continental plates will like move over each other very slowly, you know? And eventually that builds up, you know? It happens like every second of every day. It moves so slow, tectonically slow even. And then eventually it builds up into, and then it explodes outward into an earthquake. That is basically what revolution is like, you know? The events that like occur that bring people to like a higher political level happen so at like a huge dramatic level. I think Lenin puts it pretty well. He says there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. Pretty difficult to implement is a good way to put it, I guess. But this is the part that this is what a communist party is for. The Communist Party is supposed to form up before the earthquake happens. Before the weeks where decades happens. You join a communist party, and then you learn about all these things. You become rigorous. You know, the point of like a communist party is to train you to stand up in front of a group of working class people and guide and direct them into taking over society. That is the purpose of like the RCA, you know, that is what they teach me, is to build confidence in speaking about these things. That way, when the time comes for the workers to take power, I can point them in the direction of actually taking power. Not that the Communist Party is supposed to supplant the workers and take power, but that the workers are supposed to take power and not give way to not give way to like a bourgeois control. This is why I brought up my coworker the other day. They were talking about like slow progressive changes and working within the system, you know? When they are literally helping form up a basis of control that puts them in charge, that puts the working class in charge. And then they're telling me stuff like, "Oh, but I want to hand over all my own power back to the bourgeois." And it's like, "No, you are the working class. The tools are in your hands. You know, nobody answers to anybody but you, because you control the means of production." You know? That is the purpose of the Communist Party, is to push the workers. If a country lacks an education, revolution is almost impossible. I completely disagree, Graham. I completely disagree. 100% disagree. The workers know that they need to take charge. Just inherently. They operate the machines. Graham, I see where you're coming from, but like, I hate to say this. If you've ever worked a job before, you know that your boss doesn't do anything. You do something! You know? If you've ever, like, worked at, like, a grocery store before, or if you've ever, like, fucking worked at, as a freight loader, or been, like, a fucking truck driver, or, God, been, like, a barista, or anything, then you're the one that's in charge, because you're the one that's serving shit up, you know? You're the one that puts the product on the table, not your boss. Every worker knows that, just by being in that space. The role of the Communist Party is, well, I guess to be educated, to push the workers into taking control. As long as the workers know that they are the ones that need to be in charge. This is the point of discussion? Yes, Graham, yes! You get it! You get it! Yes! Under Temer's and Bolsonaro's rule, 20 years of progress was reset? Yeah! But that isn't because of, like, the working class couldn't take power. That is because, yeah, I agree with, like, fake news. Everybody is, like, tricked into, like, voting for things that are not in their interests. But that also talks about here. Bolsonaro and, like, Lula and all these people aren't like taking control of a proletarian state. They're taking control of a bourgeois state. It wouldn't matter if the most righteous communist got in charge of the Brazilian government, because the Brazilian government is a bourgeois government, in the same way that every government and every state across the planet is a bourgeois state. They have to be smashed by the proletariat, by workers' democracy. I think that's an effect about where I'm coming from. But yeah, Graham. Yes. Good, very good. I eat it up like a donut. I'm sorry if I came across as, like, aggressive. I just like discussing this. But yeah. So whenever, like, if you're ever in a situation where you are surrounded by, like, and not even in, like, a worker situation either. It could be in a situation of, like, a community organization, you know? Just like going to, like, a town hall meeting, or, like an HOA. I guess, would be, like, a very poor example, but, like, if you're ever in a situation where people are just like, oh, you know, we're not the ones if they are the ones that are producing something, if they're the ones who own the structures around them, if they're the ones that are, like, putting the food on who are, like, farming, or the ones that are, like, operating the machines, and because they are the ones that are in charge. They are the working class, the proletariat. Nothing moves. Not a fucking, like, not a box gets unloaded from a freighter into a grocery store without the kindness of the working class, you know? If they are ever in a room and they are discussing about, like, giving their power away to the Democrats, the Republicans, to back to the bourgeois, if you are a communist, you have to push back against that, you know? In the same way that even, no matter how much I sit in a union meeting, and no matter how much, how unpopular it is for me to be all like, hey, you probably shouldn't vote for Katie Wilson, you should instead form up a workers' democracy, and we should be the ones in charge, they still have to do it, you know? Because that's what it means to actually, like, empower the workers. And that's what being a communist is about. That's why you have to be educated on these topics, I think. Beep, 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 beep. Does the fact that religion took influence over most of the Brazilian population, maybe a revolution will happen decades later if the conditions are met? Yeah, Graham. I agree. Things like religion and cultural identity, those are all tools with which the ruling class uses. Like, religion is not an abstract form. Religion is not something that forms up from, like, human abstraction because it's a fun thing to do. Religion is a tool of the ruling class. It might have been a little different a long time ago, but religion is a tool of the ruling class to divest the working class from any effort of building workers' power, a workers' democracy. You know? It instead focuses the workers' intuition into a different community object. Religion was recently implemented in Brazil's politics. Ugh. Oof. My condolences. I'm surprised it wasn't there originally. Maybe a revolution will happen decades later if the conditions are met. The conditions are right now. The conditions are always there. I mean, at any moment, every workers' organization could form up like a union, you know? Hell, I'm doing that right now. You just have to be... I guess what I'm saying is, you don't get to pick the revolutionary moment. You know? Okay, so what I'm saying... Okay, so let me rephrase this. Revolutions pretty much happen, like, every month at this point, you know? A proletarian revolution pretty much happens every fucking month or so. And you see this in all the This is what protests are. You see this in all the protests, you know? You see this in, like, general strikes that happen, you know? Anytime, like, a group of workers gets out on the street, that's basically a revolution, you know? It's just that it peters out. Because the workers don't know what they want, you know? There is no sufficient, like, communist theoretical backing that the workers have to push them into the confidence of taking power. You know? That's just, you know, that's just how it happens. But that was The State and Revolution. I hope everybody had a good time reading it. I hope the discussion was merited, even though it was only like 30 minutes or so of discussion. Thank you for the discussion, as always. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to hit... what am I going to hit tonight? Esoteric Ebb? Borderlands 4? Divinity? Let me see. Chivalry? Team Fortress? Maybe Team Fortress. You have my doubts, but don't think too much. Yeah, I guess. I'm not saying I'm right. It's just I think you gotta have a good logical argument. Alright, be right back. Gotta piss. Gotta piss, mate. Alright, let me see. I'm gonna play Esoteric Ebb. I'm in the mood. Wouldn't you know it, playing the music got me in the mood for Esoteric Ebb. Who would have thought? This guy. Alright, let's see. Wah! 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 I'm just gonna start doing that. Wah! Hello, everybody, I'm back. I hope everybody's having a good night so far, with their theoretical underpinnings. Dude, I am kind of nervous about this upcoming couple of months, you know? About, like, the RCA documents that have been released. I'm nervous about what the discussion's gonna be, you know? I'm nervous about what that's gonna look like. I'm nervous about having anything to say. Boo! We're back again. Look at this monstrosity. It's almost time. We're nearing the end. Last time you found Meridoc, the star witness you've been looking for all campaign. He told you about this invisible smoking person who entered into the pillar. As crazy as it sounds. You're certain you need to follow. What do I think about the Shonik video? I did watch the Shonik video, Graham. That was definitely an interesting take on class wars. About capping a point and then unlocking that class, and then having to defend that point to keep that class. That was definitely a weird, cool, and novel angle. I should have seen if he had any servers running that game mode. I would love to play it, to, like, test it out, you know? That'd be so cool. Alright, we just did our report. There's not much left for me to do, I think. Election day is tomorrow. If I don't turn up, it's gonna be bad. Revivify. Revivify. I have Revivify, don't I? In the Lich House? I don't think I can revive him, can I? An easy riddle? I don't think I can solve that riddle. It's way too difficult. I would love to find out where the Copper Press Fever is. Find the location of the Copper Press and name the secret editor. Golden Lion. Norvikian Resistance. Giddy. 0 o'clock at night. We could take the exhaustion point. Oh, I gotta talk to you. Tiny primal spirit. Oh, 4 apples. Yummy. His usual shenanigans of changing TF2 maps, I suppose. It was cool. Usually he just tries to make, like, the most balanced map possible, and that's why it's bad. He should try making the most unbalanced map possible. Where the fuck am I going? Let's go back in here. See if I missed anything. No, doubtful. We could finish the game. I do want to vote, though. So I've got till tomorrow. Oh, what was I gonna do? Well, we gotta go find the Norvikian Resistance. I wonder where they could possibly be. Not the watermill, I don't think. I imagine they're down in Waterland. Maybe not. In, like, the undersea? The Undercity? It's a long way to fall. You are at the bottom. Maybe I am. Hello, Mr. Crab. Mr. Lobster. I mean, I guess we do have Revivify now, though. Sure, that'll help me. Oh. Oh, it's the Earth statue. You there, citizen. Do I need a magic hand to grab you? Oh, never mind, I lied. Any secrets? That's what I'm talking about. We love a loose stone, don't we, folks? Vorgani River droplets. What are these? Minor strength increase. Sure. Thanks. You're the best. For a week. Perhaps it's that guy's door? You approach one of the many doors out here in Waterlane View. This one is as damp as the rest. Snow watches you move carefully. Knock on the door. You rap against the solid wood. A very solid, very rhythmic knock. A moment passes as it does, and the sound of a heavy latch sliding as it's flung open. Beyond the frame, you see a human male, mid-30s, his short hair ruffled, his cloak wrapped around him like a makeshift toga. His face exerted in panic. Gross. Oh God, no. No. You see the tears rolling from his eyes as he leans forward, pleading, what happened to him? Oh, awful. He thinks you're here to deliver terrible news. Calm down, no one was hurt. Oh, thank the gods. He rushes to give you a big hug. How lovely, to share an embrace with a fellow man. This truly makes me glad. He takes a step back, wiping half-formed tears from his cheek. I'm Manius. I must have jumped to conclusions here. Yeah, sorry about that. We're here to investigate the tea shop. You know what he said. Oh. This generic human male looks around him. I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to disclose any information to the local militia. That is what you are, no? A cleric of the local militia? Sure, but... You see, Octavio, he's a busy man, but he's directly instructed me in that in case there are any inquiries, they would have to go through official channels, even for this inner circle. It's very suspicious. I'm sorry, I swear to you, we have all the legalities in order. I have diplomatic immunity, that's what it's called. Your companion gives you a raised eyebrows towards the fucking ceiling type look. How can a lowbrow free strider receive immunity? This is a bureaucratic farce. The yellow team sure knows how to play the game. Diplomatic immunity? Yes. Who are you? Oh, I'm Manius, as I said. I'm a free strider and a member of the Ascani Reeds Trading Company. I work for the first-in-command guild agent of Tolstad. I'm afraid I cannot offer anything more than that. So you're saying, good day. He shuts the door in your face. That was a roller coaster. This was some big shot, wasn't it? Did I just mess that up? I wouldn't worry about it. On paper, you did nothing wrong. I trust your intuition. Really, we're just standing here talking outside the guy's door, so can we move on? I got owned. I got owned, dude. I got owned. I got fucking owned. You there, gnome creature. You there, gnome creature, give me your things. I can't take his things. We're breaking in. We're fucking breaking into the Ascani Reeds Trading Company. That's all there is to it, man. You take a few steps away from the top entrance to find yourself positioned before one of the windows. It's dark inside. While Waterlane never sleeps, the Free Striders are clearly busy these days before the election. Headquarters building looks dead empty. It's ballsy, Snell says, peering through the dark window. Ooh, DC 17, wow. Try banging. How is it locked? Good question. Looks like a simple mechanism on the inside. Won't be impossible to open, just a bit hard. Could slide in a lockpick, then it'd be much easier. Alright, let me grab a lockpick. I got one. Guess what? Hey, Graham. Taking off. Have a good night if you are. DC 7! Esoteric lockpick moment. Oh my... Oh, I still lost it, dude. Huh. It's moving a bit, but not enough, but the gap is bigger. Putting a finger inside. Nope. Fine, try again later. And I shall. There we are. I asked you to guess. Chicken butt. Did you bake a cake? Did you bake a cake recently? I carefully maneuver through the crack of the side of the window and... Slungus! Oh, I feel owned! Fuck, I should have known, dude! Crack it. It takes you 10 seconds. 10 short seconds and... You got the window open, baby. Time to enjoy the spoils. And if we run into anyone inside, remember you're a cleric on a mission, not a burglar. Nice. Or a cleric on a mission, not a bugler. I'm the bugler, baby. Where'd my thingy go? There he is. And then in we go. All right, they got the dude in the fire. They got the dude in the fuck ass fireplace. All right, what can I steal? More loot. More loot. Real late for a visit. You shouldn't be in here. It's off limits when Tusk Lady ain't around. I call anyone I want, anything I want. Why is your scarf talking? Get you to look the other way? Look, I'm bound here, you know? Only higher orders would allow me to look the other way. Taller than you, so... Its size, a puff of smoke whispered in the air. If you were an elemental lord or something, that'd change things, but you're not, so... Danger, fear, pain. 500 crowns? Well, I mean, I have an elemental lord. Does that count? I have an elemental lord in my pocket. Very late for a visit. Higher orders. They don't want me. He don't want me. Prove that you're worthy elemental lord by sticking your hand in the fire. Oof. I don't think I can roll I don't think I'm lucky enough to roll 16. 500 crowns is too much, buddy. But I would rather him look the other way, so maybe I will try and burn myself. Let's give it a gander. I guess I could boost my constitution. Couldn't I? Couldn't I? I could do that. I hadn't even thought about doing that. The Afridi bottle. Oh, guess who's got 15 constitution now? That weapon won't go there. Wait. Hello. Oh yeah? Oh really? Test the little guy. Still what? Must have some kind of secret around here. Should push. Higher orders? Check this out. Nat 20? Didn't even need it. Didn't even need it. You? Never heard that he ever retired. I should retire now? Nah, I still got an hour left. Your skin is a shield. Huh? Place your hand in front of the smoke guy right into the flames. Confidently you reach forth. Oh, Smoky Boy, what the critting are you doing? With your second hand you cast Druid Craft, causing the flame to wrap around your hand. Holy hells and bells and stuff, it exclaims and dances around your searing hand. It is not a lot, but you can sway the flames by tugging primal strings. Gods be damned, dude. This is enough. Your heartbeat screams in your ears, blood rushing, adrenaline pumping. Beyond your body, the smoke creature laughs wildly. You're awesome. I guess you are an elemental lord. I'll look the other way, you go ahead and do whatever you want, boss. You hear him cackling as he rolls over. I was gonna say, now here's the annoying part, getting all my fucking shit back in order. Spyro Saleh. I don't remember what I mean, this one was my weapon. Let me see, there we go, I used the sling ring. I'm missing this guy. Okay, I think that's everything. Frogmouth? Was I Frogmouth posting? No, I was... +2 dexterity, -2 strength. +2 charisma, -2 dexterity. No, give me the Saleh. Alright, sweet, let's start stealing stuff. Yeah, here we go. Give me the funny sword, give me the funny sword! Give me everything. Pixie Dust Slush. Pickpocket successful. Pixie Dust Slush. Grants minor dex, thanks. Hang on, there's like a dex glove item since I'm stealing? Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna need this. Lowers the DC of trifling checks. That should be good. There's also this key. Bone dust. Yummy. 19 copper. I'll be taking the sword. 19 dex. Oh, 6. Nope. Ow! Oh, I didn't see anything. The creature cackles. Be serious, but seriously, be a little less obvious. You'll be a bit more cool about this. You're better than this. One more try. Alright. Give me a hot second. Oh, they won't let me reroll? They won't let me Shard to Jor this? They hate me. DC 2? Yummy. Yummy gold. I'll take the shards. Thank you. And of course, the dream patch. No stealing spells. This is a wild one. Careful, cleric. The free strider has many things, but careless is not one of them. Crack the safe. Inspect the safe. Old design, arcane era. Simple mechanism built upon entering an esoterically attuned iron piece. Thick walls, a handle, the words Orion and Glot are hammered into the front plate. Be difficult to get into without proper tools. You want to crack that safe, right? Look over to the fire. Glance at the flame. The Mephit is clearly avoiding looking in your direction. The Mephit. The my feet. This is the prize right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it shall be. Tracing the rim of the keyhole with your gloved fingers, you sense the esoterically aligned arcane power within. It sends tingles up your entire arm. You bring out the lockpick, using it to explore the mechanism inside, being careful not to trigger the magical barrier inside. You realize by exploring that the rim inside has a dead zone. Tiny gap where the spell, enchantment of some kind, does not reach. Press against that gap while fiddling the mechanism. You do so, and within seconds you hear a click. Whatever you did, it just worked. That was lucky. Luck is just another word for intentless skill. Bam, great job. Seriously. Hear Mephit whistling in the fire. I ain't seen nothing here, no sir. As the door glides open soundlessly, you see inside a stack of papers bound by a leather strap. Grab the orange leather. As you do, you realize how light it is. Is this just one paper? Two? What the hell? Why would they keep a single contract alone in a safe? It must be juicy. You look over the text real quick. Gods be damned. It's easy enough to understand what it means. The contract is between the Ascani Reeds Trading Company and the city of Norvik. What's it about? The contract states that from the 1st of Belpin, on the morrow of the Blood Night, that is 4 days from the election, the land rights of 15 collective ports across Norfolk will be transferred to. Blood Night is a solemn holiday, usually spent visiting graves of loved ones, especially fallen soldiers. Each day of the week you're supposed to pray for a different fallen soldier. A bunch of company names you've never heard of, and then there's, the signatures of those businesses, they're all magistrates. One of them says Nicholas Darrow. The city's selling off every port in the city? They're doing what? That's insane. Genius move, honestly. This means the Free Striders will get control of the city no matter what happens on election day. And the magistrates will all get rich. Oh, they're good. Now that you got the info, you better get out of here, but, it's fucking Free Strider. What should I do with this, Snell? I honestly have no idea. All I know is that you and me, we're not supposed to see this shit, so don't do anything hasty. Should I release this somehow? Yeah. The folk need to know the truth. You're not gonna stop it either way. You should turn it back into Vera. Later on, tell you got it from some thief on Waterlane. You can make some friends and enemies, so be careful how you show it to. City is corrupt, what a surprise. Keep it or share it, make sure it does not trace back to you either way. Interesting. Norfolkian resistance, but I'd rather take it to the Asgulls. Problem is, I don't know where the fucking Asgulls are, man. Do I still have that? I don't want the Ring of Regeneration on. What other item? What did I have? Oh, here we go. The Esoteric Watch. I forgot. Alright, sweet. Let's get out of here. I don't think they're gonna be in Waterlane. I think they're gonna be down. Down in the deep under. Or up there, wherever the fuck that is. Don't know how to get up there, so. Hey, Glacier. Oop. This isn't Schnell's place. Dormitory Attic Commission. That's definitely where they're meeting. See me, son of Strokeback. I can't do that now. Yeah, I never have been able to. RNA. I don't live here. That's Schnell's house at the bottom. That's the scary door that heals you if you do it right. Winding path that leads outside? Where? Oh, it takes me to Tolstad, apparently. What? Really? We should go to sleep. Oh, right. I remember. I want to do some stuff, but I think we're just going to have to hit the election. Sorry to the Asgulls. And we're just gonna have to go to sleep and then vote. I couldn't possibly tell you where the Asgullists are holed up. What the fuck is this? This doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem safe at all. Up in the air, 10 or so feet over the moonlit grassy fields, you peer the outline of a bubble. Huh. It sits fixed, wobbling by the push of some unknown force, clearly not affected by wind or anything else material. An esoteric pocket in the making. The goblin stands on his tippy toes looking up at it. What are you looking at? You don't see it? No, I see something. It's faint, though. Esoteric bullshit, I assume? Always. Excuse me. Late night esoteric bullshit, even. Look, you're the expert. How do we deal with this shit? It is still forming. Remember the alcohol pocket? That thing started out just like this. If you really want to find out what kind of pocket it'll be, you'll probably have to waste some time here. But that could be neat. Could be a chance to impress the goblin. Turn him even more into your loyal follower or something akin. Your past experience tells you an approximate time. 1 hour. 1 hour, it will form into something solid. It will occur in about an hour. Oh, what's it gonna do? It's an esoteric pocket. It could be anything. I haven't heard of one appearing like this in years. In the city below, sure, but up here? Anything can happen in the realm of the esoteric, Schnell. Thoughts on saturation? Crank the bitch up. Crank that saturation up. Always. Make that shit gross. It's getting pretty late, but like I said, you're the expert. Makes sense. Spend the hour to stake it out. Late night hours, real fun time to stay out in Tolstad. Focus on the pocket. Norvik has a recorded rate of 0.15 rate of DEPF, Daily Esoteric Point Formation. This rate is similar to the coastal cities. Few of these pockets result in anything above a 1-star danger rating as well. The current rate for anything higher, 1 in 10. Thus this pocket before you will arguably not result in anything dangerous or interesting. But it's still your job to deal with it. If someone finds out you didn't deal with this pocket and it turns out like a 4-star lava biome or something, you're screwed. And you might be able to wiggle your way out of that trouble, but really, considering how many people know you're here on the specific place in Tolstad right now for the investigation, above the shimmering pocket far up you see the moon. The light of the night, a great source of power that moves alone across the sky at night. Has a different color and follows different movements in each band. In Ascani it is light blue and stays in the sky for far longer than the rest. Alone in the ever-wide expanse, a blot of light as wide as your thumb on an outstretched fist, circling around the white, its blue-hued ring. It shines particularly bright on this cloudless night. Even this grassy field on the roof of the garden, which holds no glowstone or everlasting flame, is so brightly illuminated that you have no trouble seeing each individual dewy blade of grass as you plant yourself on top of them. This spot is where you will wait. Having sat quiet for some time, the goblin finally speaks. They're really not that common, are they? The pocket? Yeah. No, they're not. That checks out. Ignoring a few encounters below, I've only ever run into real esoteric events in the wild twice in my life. I guess this is 3. What was the first? Saw a bullet pocket when I was a kid. No one I knew died, but it was a shit show. The second one? It was on a trip to South Housing when I accidentally walked or slid into a grease pocket. Ugh. I've encountered many myself. Oh yeah? He's inviting you to share. You gain nothing by sermonizing about the esoteric with this goblin. I've been drunk except once, during the Great Towers riot. During my Earthguard training, I spent 6 months on the Great Steam Pit Militia. Once stopped an illegal fishery ring by raising an undead army of frozen fish. The goblin stares at you. For a long, drawn-out moment. Sorry, what? The Norvik fishery reported dead fish rising from their freezer storage. Kept happening night after night. I was sent to investigate. Ah, yeah, I've heard rumors of that shit happening. Just figured it was a joke. He's still not sure if you're joking. I searched the facility, found a dead man underneath the freezer unit. Whoa. That's grim. His ghost had created a faint pocket of undeath. His hatred was so strong enough that he animated fish each night. Hatred? I mean, he's dead, so I can get it, but still. I looked into it, checked the local registry, and took the corpse to a patriarch to get a speak with dead done. Turns out the dead man was a whistleblower. The fishery owners killed him to keep quiet about their illegal operation. The goblin's expression darkens. Fuck. Smuggling, bribes, murders, poaching, tax evasion. The last one will get you. That's the big one. What'd you do? The dead man wanted revenge, and I may have accidentally encouraged him to take it. Uh-oh. What's done is done. Sure, and? The fish spilled out of the warehouse, out on the streets of Northwall. A small army of reanimated frozen cod, flopping, rolling, smashing towards the owner's house across the way. The goblin burst out loud. Are you serious? The owner was apparently eating dinner when he heard them come. Oh gods. The owner survived, but his operation did not. The patriarch took over the ordeal, but I did help bury the whistleblower properly. You got a medal for that, I assume? For enabling vigilante ghost justice? Nah, I got reprimanded. Should've got a medal, 100%. Undead fish army. That's the best story I've heard all year. Of course, it's nothing compared to that time my eyes exploded. The goblin quickly gets up from his seat. You were what? Suddenly your body recoils. A shockwave faint but real emerged from the esoteric pocket. Your intuition was correct as always. You waited 1 hour and now you get to witness this esoteric event. And it is forming. You gotta go, Graham? Gotcha, man. Thanks for stopping in. I hope you have a good night. It has become 10 feet radius, a diorama. Your goblin companion is squinting towards the strange sphere. Within you see a fire, a vast heat, a rage of uncontrollable forces, all centered on one figure, and an armored kobold. Red scales gleaming through crimson plate. Approach. You step closer to the bubble. The kobold warrior turns. His eyes lock with you. Kestu? Latin. Old Esuthian dialect. He speaks again, this time in broken Diminorian. You, human. The kobold points towards something outside his bubble. You have permission to pass. Identify yourself, stranger. The kobold lets out a hissing noise. Servant, seek place of worship to be spared. Are you idiot, or are you special guest? He looks you up and down. Never mind, you are special. What outfit? Are you a Margenta? Silverslove? Interesting. Kobold is not of your time. What year is it? Year? He blinks at you expressionless. Year is 966 since closing. Are you dumb? Very interesting. This kobold is from the Fade era. This esoteric pocket must be showing you something through time itself. A quaint. Too bad you're only interacting with a simple kobold. Where are you from? I am Top of Brood, deep in Zerkamort Cavern. Far I have traveled, far we have raged. We bring flames to coast. What do you think of humans? Humans are weak, soft, good for labor, bad for war. We're from the future. This is a time pocket. Then the pocket bursts. Oh, it's bizarre? A talk through time, I assume, or just a dumb illusion? Quite a rare esoteric pocket to discover. Huh, harmless, I suppose. We can hope. Right. The pocket is gone. The goblin gets to his feet slowly. At least there wasn't an undead fish involved. The world returns to normal, without that esoteric feeling, just grass, moon, and cold air. Complete calm and quiet. Once again, you've learned nothing by this practical exercise. It is a bit fun, eh? Once again, you've learned nothing from this practical exercise. Indeed. I will never have Magic Hand, dude. I wouldn't even know where to fucking get it. Maybe we should do the last quest. Nah, let's go to bed, vote, and then do the boss fight. Nero. There's nothing to read. I already read all the funny. I don't think I got an item. Oh, I did. Ledger full of contracts with documents marked with official city seals. Nothing in here is meant for your eyes. Just looking at it makes you queasy. Should now go to bed.
Huh?
Time to sleep. So is it one day before Election Day, or is Election Day tomorrow? Because if it's one day before Election Day, that's a little different. You close your eyes to begin this desperate plea for sleep. The strings you follow, all are tangled around this endless pillar spiked through the heart of the city. Finally, to enter the pillar, you must perform a most challenging esoteric task. Travel to the beyond. You managed to hand that scroll of astral projection to Viskin. Quite the find. Now you must find the courage to ask him to use it. Is this your last night on Tolstad? Is this your last night alive? As the sun rises over your beloved city, you know one thing true. It is time to enter the pillar. Indeed. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. Yeah, I guess so. Let's go into the pillar, folks. Oh, all my funny drinks are spilling all over my floor. Chill. Get up, lad. Day 5. One day remaining. It's last day to finish this. The final day. Everything ends today. Or begins, depending on your perspective. Depending on which party wins this foolish democratic process. Can I vote? I want to vote. I want to go vote. Let me go vote. Alright, first let's go pick up Schnell. Before we do anything else. First let's go pick up Schnell. Well, let me see if I can vote. Because it's gotta be in here, right? Not yet. I still want to try stealing from this guy. Stealing his axe would go crazy. Crypt key. Got a coworker that I hate the most? No. Maybe. Maybe, but I don't think it would amount to much, I guess. There are definitely coworkers that I disagree with, but I don't know, when it comes to human, it's hard. When it comes to humans, my fellow humans on Earth, it's hard for me to hate. They've all got their own little perspectives. You know? Some of them are a lot more, like, fascist-ridden than some of the other ones, but nobody that I know of is nobody, like, in my vicinity, in my life, is anywhere close to power, so I can't, like, particularly hate anybody. Alright, Chanel, let's do this. Let's go into the pillar. Out in the garden. Tyler? Well, I don't hate him. A lot of my coworkers do, but I don't particularly hate the guy. I wouldn't want to hang out with him, I think, but into the pillar. Just in time to vote. Just in time for the election. Begin the process of entering the pillar. If you do, there's no going back. Are you ready? It is time, then. You sound more and more like him. Time for you to call the wizard. Hope he doesn't ask for a return in favor. He most likely will. It is time, then. Viskin? Schnell? So how do you do this? The pale man takes out a spell scroll. Give me a moment. It will take time for me to initiate the casting. Magic such as this will need to be handled carefully, especially on these times. Good luck. Thank you. I will need it. The strings are weak, cleric. Too weak for such a spell normally. But I shall make it work. Give me some time. You have time. Use it to rest. You close your eyes. You feel the pillar rising up above the clouds beneath the earth, piercing the veil of something beyond. You are ready. Schnell takes a deep breath. The pale man lifts up the scroll of astral projection. A faint blue line is drawn between it and the closest surface of the pillar. It is ready, cleric. Am I ready? No. Alas. Let's go. Let us. He begins to mumble the words. In lucem vitae profer iter nostrum ad ulteriora et vasta. Bring into the light of life our path the beyond and wide. Viskin closes the scroll. Good luck. Gulp. Touch the pillar. And away we go! Holy fuck, dude. What a transference. What a move, dude. Whoa! So cool. You soar, the air careening, deafening and silent, profound and debauch. It does not stop. Do anything. And you join in further. Try to scream, but a force too loud. In the direction of out, treble, drilling, catching, burning. All senses alert, no chime to guide. A goblin clings to life. You are on a path, carefully closing, quickly cutting, violently pressing. There is a calming pressure rising. Huh? Your earthly organs compromising. Each orb and lobe so gently breathing. Your mind is dying. An interconnected disbelieving. Blindness is eternal. Just like a bell begun to ring. Oh my. This path of yours is just a string. Until one. Ah! I wonder what happens if you have 18 stats in every stat to get that tick. What am I looking at? It's me. Oh, I'm out here in the water. Roaring of the pillar. Endless. Look around. There's nothing. Look below. Water? Nope. It's an esoteric substance. Phlogiston. A substance found naturally in the beyond. Due to the nature of its existence, it is difficult to investigate. However, scarce Arcanist records suggest it's a type of chemical glue holding realms together, or acting a bridge between those realms. Look at yourself. You're whole, but shaken. Pure disorientation in this dark place. You must begin. Seek what you are meant to find. Where am I? Great fucking question. That's Jor's Crossroads, son. This way seems articulate. Chanel! Shit. Shit. This was a terrible idea. Focus. Whatever's out there, you can negotiate with it. That's what I'm thinking. Everything wants something. There's always a correct choice. I agree. Fear, body shaking. There is nowhere, there is nothing. Driving into the beyond, it leaves your mind in darkness, pure darkness. Apart from the sliver of light. Fascinating, terrifying, unprecedented. A genius brought you here, this place of Pyrrhus Esotericus. You alone will conquer it. This is the end. Oh, it's forming. You're not strong enough for this. Hey! Ghostly apparition? No. Not again. Strength DC 7 failure. Uh-oh. You... Oh, I know what time it is. You are a disappointment. Oh, no. Whoa. Out here amongst the stars, brother. Whoa. Very good. Blinded by the strange lights above, your eyes adjust. You peer onwards. In the darkness, you see a pillar of light. Something beckons you forth. This looks like ass. Charisma, DC success. Maybe there's a way out of here after all. Well, at least I can pray. You approach the shrine. Staring at the chiseled monument, you focus your mind. You take a deep breath and begin your prayer. And... tranquility. They'll let me do it all again? The final task? You must enter it, there's no other way. Be wary. Hey. The cobbler. I got nothing on him. Roll a d20 250 times. Hello. The old man works at the counter, tiny hammer in one hand, boot in the other. Hello. He gives you a glance and a polite nod. Then he keeps working, still focused on the settling a strap from the boot. What you doing here? Work, mainly. Dancing around the subject. He is at peace. Is it fun? Honestly, yeah. I enjoy it quite a bit. As long as there are feet on the ground, there are shoes for tending. It's my father always said. Maybe you can get some actual info if you play along, make some small talk. Were you close with your father? Do you also work with Boots? He did. Most boys took after their fathers in the village, in one way or the other. He grabs a tang to rip some leather off the sole. The best thing I can tell you is another saying, my dear old father. We're nothing but the worst parts of our parents with a splash of random ego. With a smirk, the old man then leans in and says he read too many books. You're a shoe repairer? The old man lets out a short laugh. Let me ask you something. Do you believe yourself to be naturally funny, or is there effort involved? I'm trying really hard, so hard. He nods and chuckles to himself. I'm a shoe repairer, yes, a cobbler. What are you working on? A Legionnaire's boot. Not the enchanted kind, that wouldn't fall apart so easily. It needs a sole replacement, new studs and hobnails. You know much about boots? Nope. Nothing at all? I wear them. He looks down at your feet. Earthguard standards. Of course, what else? He points his hammer at you and says, you know, they wanted to send you out in nailbacks originally. Nailbacks, could you imagine? Blisters, blisters, blisters. A boot enjoyer, this one. Such a shoe enthusiast. The old man shakes his head and clicks his tongue. Thank Till for soft riders. Interesting. The old man speaks of an old god. Yeah, from before the journey west. Till? Which god was that? Where do you come from? Not from money, nor greatness of any kind. If I had to extract some source, one point of origin for myself, that would be just a small unfortunate village on the coast. He grabs some fresh nails from a bucket under the workbench. I was born to do this, he says, and hammers one of them into the bottom of the boot. Good, fair, decent service. Who you voting for? He keeps working and doesn't answer your question for a little while. Then he mutters out, there's no perfect choices there. Want a good outcome for the working class? Vote the Ascalists. Yeah, the less fortunate form the backbone of society after all. Bound together, people can move mountains after all. He smiles. Who are you? Nut, son of Toke. That's my name. He keeps working on the boot. It is time to inquire. Why are you in the beyond, Nut? Oh, I died. I've been here for years. You're dead. Everything here is not so material, you included, if you stay too long. He holds up the boot, looking at its bottom with one eye closed. It's a tunnel. A right-going way heading straight outside. Been left behind for a little bit longer, though. Just a little bit. Is it the tunnel for dead souls? Yeah, that sounds about right. The old man places down his boot and hammer, gently, as if placing his own child upon the bench. Ran, cleric. He's not evil, nor are his hands clean. I cannot speak with him myself, sadly, so I ask if you please, handle it with heart and grace. He is here, the one you're looking for. Handle what? The one you're looking for. Go to him, before it's too late. The old man points to his left. You have 1,000 questions for this shade of man, but your mind, it just won't allow you, which is very ominous. You know you cannot ask this man more, for he cannot tell you. Go and face the one you've been searching for all this time. Ignore this ghost. You got work to do. What should I do? He gives you a look of a father looking upon his confused and lost son. I don't know. He turns around and taps you on the shoulder. His hand is warm. But I know you will. Non-leave. Damn, they're just gonna let me walk around and take this shard of Jor? Oh, don't mind if I do. To the beginning, it's all just a memory. That's the guy. Oh, it's me. You see him, in the dark. The last sun. You're not gonna find anything back here. Yeah, this goes on for miles. That's funny. Yeah, but I mean, I can pick up the shards at Jor. I can pick up the extra shards. I'm sure those will come in handy. Give me some more readouts. It's kind of spooky. Ooh, another shard. Well, don't mind if I do. Oh, another shard. Oh, don't mind if I do. Not quite the apples. The idea of apples. Oh, 27 apples. 67 apples. A false image of the Tolan caught a memory. Alright, boy. Wish to do battle? Oh, I shall. I guess I should enhance my stats, just in case. Greetings, brother. Greetings. I should have examined him. He bows before you. My name is Gorn Skaldman. a loyal servant of Earth. I need your help. You see the writhing corruption upon his arm, it causes him to shake, touched by the void. He appears sane enough somehow, so that's how it is. Wasn't a rogue spellcaster, a rogue paladin. You need my help? I do. The paladin performs a perfectly executed fist-on-chest salute. As he does, you notice the longsword sheathed at his hip. Such a legendary blade, it would serve as an excellent symbol of your rule. He does not see you as a threat. The state has fallen, brother, he says and lets out a crackling cough. In my grief and anger, I have made some egregious choices. Start from the beginning. Cross your arms and let him speak. Start from the beginning. Of course, I apologize. The broken man lifts his helm, revealing a rugged face covered in layers of sweat and ash. Gods, he says, pressing his not as ruined hand against his brow. It should never have come to this. Sorrow in his eyes, meeting your gaze. How many years have you served? 5 at the towers. And you know well the particulars of Earthguard politics. Akasim was struck by a feeble mind spell over 3 years ago. What? He is hidden away in his palace manor. For all this time. The Lord Patriarch, yeah. The city is now a headless chicken run by a cabal of magistrates. On a cursed evening 3 years ago, the leader of Norvik was as good as assassinated. They decided to keep it a secret. Their reasoning was simple. It was for the security of the city. Without Earth, we have no protocol on the transfer of power. None revealed to the public, at least. Have you seen Lord Akasim? I have. I was one of the few to be granted audience about a year ago. Our Lord Patriarch has lost his own mind. No restorative magic takes, none we are able to muster, at least. It is at times like these you imagine the small folk cry out for the power of the Arcanists, without this mess. Are you sure the Lord Patriarch isn't just old? Who knows about this? Few, the Magisters, some of the Patriarchs, all of them sworn party officials, including me, despite my lower status as a paladin. It's a tightly guarded secret. They're sworn? How terrible. None of them had told anybody? Why are you a paladin, not a patriarch? I am not well suited to such labors, too much administrative work. To retain my position as last paladin was deemed honorable by itself. He looks out into the void. And I was never good at tower duties, teaching youngsters and such. One of my comrades once told me about a student who tried to cast a power word spell within his first few weeks in the towers. His eyes melted out of his skull. Could you imagine being responsible for such a thing? He shakes his head. You got him talking about the past. Good. A sense of normalcy. Sounds awful. Indeed. Why'd you keep it a secret? They said it was considered dangerous for him to falter after serving for so long. Better to hold up a puppet until the election. Or, that's what they decided. It's not that. I was not in that particularly smoky room. That reasoning is why no one questioned his absence. However, Akasim was a shrewd man, and a hale one at that. He would eventually be taken by age, of course, but not like this. This was a sudden and total eclipsing in his mind. Foul magic at work. Who cast Feeble Mind? Enemies of the state. They broke into his manor at night, then they got away. The magistrates pointed at cultists. I went looking. I was unable to find any proof of such activities. Why are you telling me this? Why are you here, brother? I believe those two questions have the same answer. What do you mean about the transfer of power not being revealed? It was kept hidden. What was? Earth's legacy, his instructions. The Magisters and Lord Patriarch were provided with guidelines for the eventual death of Akasim. How'd you see these guidelines? I found them in Akasim's chamber, when I was allowed to visit him. It was as if the old man was guiding me to them, even in his feebled state. Tell me now. He grabs his corrupt arm to stop the twitching, then he speaks in a regal tone. Upon the death, or at the behest of his lordship Akasim, a provisional government will be declared. He closed his eyes, reciting the words as if they were scratched on the back of his eyelids. The government shall have 2 years to oversee an electoral process, at the end of which a permanent government chosen by the people shall be enacted. This provisional government shall be headed by 2 individuals with shared power and responsibility to provide full suffrage to all the citizens of Norvik. The first individual shall be elected by all active clerical patriarchs within 7 days. The second individual shall be elected by all active guild union leaders within 7 days. He opens his eyes. 1 cleric, 1 Ascalist. Earth's legacy. If either of the provisional electoral processes fail, the individual will be chosen via random lottery at the end of these 7 days. Random lottery? Is this a jest? He coughs. The instructions included more details, of course, but this is what Earth wanted from us, brother. This is what Akasim wanted. He was going to step down, retire to enact his final will of our glorious god. Oh shit. That's why they feeble-minded him. They could not let Earth's will pass. They could not let go of power. That's one hell of an accusation. Yes, brother. A charge most serious. Know this. I read Earth's legacy. His last will over a year ago. Akasim was targeted 3 years ago, right as the election began taking shape. Think about it. If a cleric and an Asculus were to be put in charge of the entire electoral process, who would lose? Who would possibly want to avoid such a scenario? The Freestriders. The Freestriders. And the power behind their Reedsian coffers. It gives you a tired look. I've worked tirelessly to find the truth on this. I use my privileged access to archive party meetings, documents spanning all districts, the ability to investigate all magistrates without alerting anyone to my intent. Turns out, the answers was not so hidden. What'd you find? All magistrates have deals with the Ascani Reeds Trading Company. In total, approximately 85.5 million crowns in the form of public work investments, guild expansions, targeted tariffs, consultancy fees, the illegal sales of Norvikian property, exclusive land licensing bids, key positions within the district bureaucracies, and sometimes even just gifts. This is horrifying. Do you have the receipts? Some, barely anything. Anything damning is kept under wraps. Everything else looks innocent on the surface. I've seen one of those contracts. Darrow is selling all the shipyards in the city. You see a rage flash in his eyes. I've heard of that. I am so sad to have it confirmed. Foreign investments, that's a good thing. This is horrifying. Those monsters. That they are, brother. Eyes flick to his arm, his face contorting into a painful wince. I know well why you are here. I'm responsible for the explosion. He admits it. There you go. The elf, Gorm lifts his head. Regret. He places his hand upon the pommel of a sword. Gorm, I need you to drop your sword to the ground. You killed her. Arguably, yes. Arguably. I should explain. The party of Norvik has been entirely corrupted by crowns and foreign interests. He scoffs to himself. Our city sliced up, auctioned off. Break your oath. People would believe you. They trust you. Brother, my oath is not one to be broken. I swore my life to the party. I see. If I spoke to the press, if I spread rumors, if I so much as mentioned their foul play to the beggar of the side of the road, nearly tears in his eyes. My body would reject the words, as my soul would reject its vessel. My life forfeit to the whims of this fallen city. His head falls, his shoulders heavy. The burden, the weight of this curse. Nevertheless, a real man would have been able to break it. Lifting his head, a jaw clenched, one hand gripping over the other. I should have been able to. The fact that he's telling you this tells you his soul is already lost to this dominion, to the beyond. But here you are free to speak. Yes. The oath is not broken, I can still feel it, but here Earth does not watch me. Here he does not see what monster I've become, or she never does. What'd you do? He lifts his mutated arm, the flayed skin pulsating around vein-like tendrils. I sought out the aberration. Oh! We all knew he was there. Everglad was never considered a threat down in his flooded temple, nor there were his warlocks. I did not imagine he would so easily give me everything I needed. Terrible, terrible power. He clenches his mutated fist. A god never dies, brother. They simply fade from our world. That much was clear. When I watched him go, that means with enough power, with the correct esoteric ritual, I could return him to material reality. He takes a decisive step forward. I can bring back our god. The nature and rules of walking gods are not strictly defined in any academic circles. Be wary of anything this corrupted paladin tells you. You want to resurrect Earth? His face grows dark. I can bring him back. I can smell the hubris. 1,400 pounds of silver, branches from 5 trees grown on the soil of birth, diamonds carrying a worth of 100,000 crowns as per last material break. And the paladin bites down his words. It's all ready. I have it all. An overwhelming value, even for a high-tier resurrection. For a god, this could very well be a reasonable material cost. What was the fourth thing? Makes you so certain it would even work. A vision, brother. I know this is far-fetched, but here in this beyond there are no limits to spell casting. The rules are different, wilder. There is an esoteric freedom. I've seen into the depths of this place, in all this time I've spent here. I know I ask much of you, brother. I ask for your faith. Faith in the spell, and in me, but I swear, Earth is here, somewhere, close. I can feel him watching me, giving me these visions. You don't sound like you know what you're doing. No, I realize that. I both look and sound like a raving cultist. He flexes his mutated hand with another wince. The pain is familiar to him at this point. He seeks it out as much as he wants to avoid it. So I have given my body and soul. Why not my dignity as well? What's the spell called? I don't care to name it. It does not deserve one. Why this reservation? A spell needs a name. But this is what he wants. Why not revel in it? Something's off. Why is he not telling you? What level is the spell? I don't know. 10th? 11th? The return of a divine spark? Yeah, that should certainly be above a 9th. However, the fact that he does not know such a basic component tells you everything. When are you casting it? I've been casting it for days, brother. It is near completion. How'd you learn to cast it? Everglad's esoteric connection with the beyond allows me to make contact with a number of otherworldly beings. They help me mold a custom epic tier spell for the sole purpose of resurrecting one specific god. While my appearance has been tainted by the Far Realm's influence, this spell is no foul magic, nor is it in any way influenced by Everglad. This is divine magic at its most powerful. How'd you get all the spell components? The branches I secured myself by visiting the Cursed Lands. The diamonds and silver secured via Elam. The elves paid you? Oh, this just gets better and better. They did, in full. What they wish in return, the same thing they always wish for. Our eradication. He coughs and winces. The Elam wishes to stop free striders from getting a foothold in Ascon. They believe the Earth folk to be weak without them, easy prey. They're wrong, but I played into their assumptions. To them, I was a rogue paladin wanting revenge on my people. One who needed funding to establish a network of distance. After a few favors, they gladly provided me with the silver, the diamonds, along with the agent to plant the necklace of fireballs. You brought the necklace of fireballs into the city? Yes. I signed the paper to get it through customs without inspection, then it landed in the hands of an elf. Pinja Athena. Their warden of outreach told me she was a traitor. He raises his eyebrows, caught by what you say. A warden? Whatever he told you, you may discard. Never trust an elf. But you trusted them. You work with them. Trust an elf to do exactly what the elf needs, nothing more. He looks off into the void. The elf did exactly as her master's ordered. She took the necklace from the shipment on Water Lane, then she made sure the box was stored in the space underneath the temple. Under the temple? There's an old tunnel there, used as a stash by the tea shop owner. Pinja Athena made sure the crate with the hidden necklace was stored inside. It was supposed to stay there until election, at which point... The paladin twitches his upper hands, appears to tense up. Everglad whispered in my ear that morning. He told me the elf had set up a meeting with a Free Strider agent. Well, Jamie. I intervened. I entered the tea shop from Pillar Crossing, past the tunnel. I found her sitting in one of the booths. She had not the necklace of fireballs in her grasp. The elf was planning on selling it, to make an escape for herself. I don't blame her, but I could not let her take it. The possibility did not cross my mind. I cast Charm Person on her, though I had forgotten how the elves ignore such effects. All paladins are the same. They never think before they act. She reacted violently, threatened to blow us both up. Again, I do not blame her for this. Before I had a chance to, before I figured out what to say, I saw it in her eyes. His gaze, no longer focused on the void behind you, now piercing her eyes behind the helm. She had already made up her mind. Fascism chose the path, I chose the end. Words leaving scorched, reanimated lips. They whispered, they beckoned, they screamed. She. I cast Misty Step, reaching the edge of the room before it hit the ground. She was incinerated instantaneously. Me, I made it out with seared flesh. He closes his eyes. She did not suffer, for what it was worth. She suffered. She suffered every indignity a person can at the behest of this man. Nope, she did. Blue flames, a heat and a blast so wild consciousness is drained from the shock itself. She did not feel the fire, but she felt everything before it. She blew herself up just to get to you. In vain, waste of a life. Was there a teacher you wished had bad things happen to them? Oh, I don't know. Not that I can remember. Not that I can remember. You know, in a different setting, at a different time, he would have added, even for an elf, at the end of that sentence. But why? Why did you need the necklace so much? What were you planning? The paladin looks at you dead in the eyes. Your gut sinks. It conjoins and twirls among the eternal waters. Words spoken by the gruff man, you're breaking your resolve. There is a fourth component to the spell. One final sacrifice. Of course, the cost of a god's spark. What is the final component, Lord Gorm? He does not meet your gaze as he says, the true souls of 27 of his believers. What? One soul for each year since his fading, forcibly taken into the beyond. Oh, dear gods. They will be channeled here, to this exact corridor upon death, at which point the spell will be cast, and Earth will return to the rest of his people. He closes his eyes and mutters a few words to himself. What? Thus, I am forsaken. A worthy sacrifice for such a mighty spell. That's a lot of dead bodies. Sounds like a hassle. And that will resurrect Earth. I believe it will. Belief is a fickle thing when wielded by jaded men. I need your help, brother. Without the necklace of fireballs, it will be a grim task to collect these souls. He holds out a clenched fist, mutated flesh, and a grotesque ball. Will you assist me in resurrecting our god? As interesting as seeing an epic tier spell in action would be, do not follow this madman. You've cast so many spells from a position of naive intrigue, where the force breaks your very flesh apart, with nothing to show for it. A spell of this value and power? How do you imagine it would end? Exactly as its caster intended? Do not follow this fool into his demise. You're watching a tragedy unfold beneath these stars. This poor man has been driven to the brink of abyss. He's staring into it. A chronic lack of agency. A zealot on the edge of desperation. These whispers he hears, they cannot be his voice. They are anything but. Please speak to this man. Make him remember the path taught by your good god. It is impressive, really. You have this crazed maniac of a paladin ready to perform mass murder. But listen to him. He's so assured of his own righteousness, so profoundly up his ass, the very road to the deepest hell will become flooded by his massive tears, once he offs himself, of course. Until then, he's your problem. Choose your next words carefully. There's no one here to save you, and if you make a shitty choice, you'll have to live with the consequences for the rest of your life. No pressure. But he could come back. Take a breath, a deep one. Take your time. Argue for another path. Join him? As a paladin of Earth, your vows include a sworn oath to never hurt anyone, people. You have broken that promise. Convince him to stand by his oath to Earth with religious fervor. Argue for another path. Try to understand him. I could charm him. You're not the only one who wants him back. What gives you the right to make such a sacrifice on their behalf? No right, no law, no institution or sanctified right. This is my accursed choice, my evil imposed on the world. You're not the only one who wants him back. Indeed, brother, Norvik will rejoice when he returns. What happens when the spell goes off? Earth will return from the pillar. My corpse will lay before him covered in the blood of innocence, put down by some heroic Earthguard member. Couldn't Earth just resurrect dead people? No. The spell consumes the souls like any other costly reagent. All the people will see their god return as a most frightening time, saving them from a mad and corrupted paladin. Earth will heal those hurt. The one who slays me will be heralded as a true hero of the city, and I will be the monster. No one will ever know the truth of this ritual. Would people believe that? I cannot guarantee anything. No one can. He's thought through all the minutiae quite well. Minutiae? It is almost a shame his masterstroke is inherently flawed. People tend to reduce things to a good guy and a bad guy, and he has planned to give them both. The Free Striders would not be happy about a resurrected god in Norvik. Just hold on, there's still time to think this through. No, brother. You might not realize it, but this place does not conform to the time frame of our existence. To me, since the explosion, it's only been a few hours at best. We don't have time. It must be done now. Interesting. Time dilation based on spatial placement on the coast is something many scholars focus on. You imagine its effects could be radically stronger here in the esoteric realm. Could charm him. I'm gonna try charming him. What's wrong with your arm? The paladin clenches his claw-like tendril. I reached into the sap of the boundary tree. They gave me a permanent hold onto the strings beyond. An awesome power to wield, terrible price to pay. Hello, TDM. Everglad merely opened the path for it, but this was the only way for me to truly gain the power fit to rival Jor. Even at the cost of my flesh and soul. Horrendous. Fascinating. To think this simple paladin managed to soar so high. His descent will be a great case study. The elf didn't have to die. No, she was another mistake. He shakes his head in regret. He feels the loss, but he justified it. It is preemptively forgiven, even if as he lashes on his own. I could have let her escape. I could have succeeded in taking the necklace from her. I could have also simply have avoided the elves, gotten my components elsewhere. If I had learned more, if I had lived better, if I had more virtuous, alas. What do you think about the The Mender was a powerful queen. Good in her ways, not too unlike Earth from what I heard from him. I believe there are lessons to be learned in the rise of her cult post-fading, but that is what Earth believed. Want me to kill 27 random people? No. Earth folk only. Spell does not consider their personal belief as much as their folk type. Any human living in Norvik will do. Please do your best not to hurt anyone else. The goblin population of Tolstad especially will have to be avoided. Let's not shed their blood in vain. You like goblins? The paladin blinks in deliberation. The goblin genocide was before my time. To me, the goblins have always been a subjugated people. The destruction of the goblin clans of Ascani by Earth around 50 years ago. 3 clans were then integrated into Norvik, with their new generation being put through human schooling. What they became and what they are today I would value alongside dwarves. A healthy minority, albeit lazy and unorganized. Not lazy, that's a stereotype. Not every goblin is. As a group, their behavior is, however, in comparison to humans, less conscientious on average. It's simply how they are. Like dwarves are stubborn and elves are arrogant. It's in our blood. We're drawn to certain averages based on our folk type. Wait, what are humans then? He smiles. Greedy. In every study and every data set from scholars around the coast and from the archives burned by Free Striders, humans are, on average and in comparison to every folk type, simply the most avaricious. We cannot stop wanting more. It is in our blood. Racism is a powerful tool of fascism, and his words here are all based on flawed ideas. He's correct. There are objective, clear differences between the folk types that are important to keep in mind on broader averages, and humanity's want is exactly what makes us great, what makes you great. But I've ranted enough for a lifetime about this. You may believe whatever you wish, brother. I have a scroll of wish. That could be used to treat Lord Ascam. You... Gorm squints at you, the piece of ancient paper you're waving around. You have a scroll of wish? Then he looks at it and looks away. The Lord Patriarch has been gone far too long, brother, and wish is quite possibly a madder idea than my own. However, logic is beyond this oath. Shake it a little. I'm sorry to say, even with that, I am far too gone in this, and even wish cannot bring back a god. It is only a 9th level spell. The man knows more than you ever will know. You are nothing compared to him. Alright, I'm a Charmin. DC 20? Oh, mega lol, dude. His eyes glaze over, a faint sparkle of esoteric glimmer shining in the dark. I am charmed. The weary paladin lets out a faint laugh. But I am already your brother. I have no intention of being your opponent. Nor do I hide anything. Then stand down, put down your sword. I see. Thank you. And what will you... And ask what you will, but I assure you, a charm will do not. You charmed him, he is not your enemy. Here we go! Bada boom! Right! It's time. The final time. Time to show him who's the best. The best at winning in dialectical debate. There is another way, Lord Gorm. Pray tell, brother. Okay, he's giving you a shot here. Don't fuck it up. I spent countless nights arguing with myself, thinking over every possibility, every action. If you have a solution, I would love to hear. Now that I know the truth about the Magister's coup, I could help you spread it. We could still enact Earth's will. We can fight back, create a resistance movement. What if we find a cure for the Lord Patriarch? Ask people nicely to sacrifice themselves. Okay, none of this is working. We can fight back, create a resistance. I've already done that. What? I've used considerable funds from the Ilum to fund various resistance movements around Norvik, true nationalists who stand by Earth against these corrupt officials. They will be crushed in time. I considered it a coup, but that would have been a disaster. We never had the might or access, and given their proclivities towards deception, they are prepared and paranoid. Magistrate's coup. I could help spread it. Yeah, that could have been a solution, and I hate myself for not thinking of it sooner when it was plausible. But now my reputation is in ruin. The election is now, and power will change hands. Yet even if we had time, fighting the Free Striders on their terms is foolhardy at best. Nope. It is as much suicide as the spell is with no results. What if we find a cure? A cure to feeble mind? If you did that, you could be our new god king. True enough. Sadly, it will not happen. Not while this ebb is in place. What about if we ask people nicely? The lives have to be taken unwillingly. It is murder the spell wants. Magic, as I'm sure you're aware of, is all about intent. Otherwise, it would be easy. What about your own life? His face contorts into a foul scowl. I do not wish to die, brother. My life will be taken in force as well. Alright, none of this is working, clearly. Move on. That's true! Well, what do you mean, well? Well, as in, what can you do? There's always one thing you could do. What's that? The paladin watches you, silence sweeping over the eternal pools around you. Tell him, nah, that won't work. You're not alone, Lord Gorm. His eyes widen slightly. There are thousands of us, devoted to Earth, believers that would do anything for it. The paladin nods along with your words, but Earth is not a man. He's an ideal, a dream to strive towards. He freezes. I'm not so sure I agree. Perhaps not to you, but if we lose you, Lord Gorm, then we lose the last man at the top, who fights for us. I'm not what you think I am, brother. I do not have the power to sway the forces of the world. He lowers his head in defeat. Careful now, don't lose your head. Push him, urge him. Earth is a dead god, but not forgotten. Please do not join him. Not yet. Stop acting like you've already lost. I understand you, brother, but no. I see the way forward. This is the one I chose. See? Some other way, then. Fuck. Try to understand him. No! Ah! You cannot. Not now. Perhaps if there was time. But no. I don't understand. You must try, despite this, please. We try again. I got all these shards not for not. He is alone, tired, weary from decades of fighting for his fated master. He has watched for 27 years how everything they built has fallen apart. The paladin wants to save his people by casting himself as the villain, by destroying innocent lives despite the pain it causes him. If this is what it means to be truly good, to go against everything natural and decent to help untold future generations, I accept his view as valid. Something like that, yeah, that will help, despite all the horrors involved. Convince him to stand by his oath to Ur with religious fervor. Let's fucking try it out, man. The paladin is not broken. He knows exactly what his god is. There is a horrid truth, one deeply ingrained into the body and the skin of the muscle tissue of this broken man before you. This is a man who is throwing away everything, including the love of his God, for the purpose of reaching a better world. You can see it in his eyes. It is written in his flesh. The grandest thing the good man can truly sacrifice will be everything that makes him good. Gorm believes that somehow he knows in his vision-filled skull this string will lead to a worthy end. But he does not know anything. He has faith that will set his wrongs right. Exactly. Lord Gorm, brother. What this paladin does not understand, however, is the most awful truth of all. I hope I've made it clear. Our God never wanted us to pick up after him. But his sacrifices, with him gone, someone else has to keep giving. I'm not only willing, I'm ready to speak. You fool! The paladin glares at you with wide eyes and an open mouth, flabbergasted. You dare to place your burden upon his shoulders? Anger flashes upon his rugged and quite hairy face. You're no monster. You are a child. A child running to his tired father when the going gets tough. A father who gave him everything. Gorm knows this. The intense rage now building in his chest is proof enough. He grips his twitching arm. Anger comes only from the sense of injustice. When faced with unwanted truth, a man's ego will bring him to fury. It is only in facing that ego, and breaking it, that your Lord Gorm will be redeemed. Yes, our city is failing. A corrupt cabal of magistrates brings everything to ruin. I see that. You have dealt with it alone for decades, shackled to your duty. They threw away his legacy. Words spoken through tremendous temper, teeth clamped down, voice low. The insidious force of reeds. They cannot be stopped. They cannot be. I never saw him. You did, so tell me. Did Earth ever tell you always rely on him? The paladin lifts his chin and glares at you. Did he ever ask for your faith, your utmost faith, in his ability to set things right in the end? He opens his mouth to speak, and yet nothing comes out. Push him. Did he? No. The word snakes out of it. His face grows paler by its presence. I'm only interpreting what I've read. But I always assume he asked us to be men. Real men, who would make it through every horrible challenge. Every lonely night. Every excruciating humiliation. He is... The paladin cannot form words. He's left standing on the brink in silence. I don't believe Earth taught us to kill ourselves so he could put the world right. I don't believe that for a second. He shuts his mouth. He does not look at you. What did he teach us, Lord Gorm? Sacrifice. He taught us to give everything to set the world right as we could. Is that not what I'm doing, brother? You are sacrificing your goodness for what? For an even heavier burden to be placed upon him, even if everything in your spell goes off, with every esoteric mishap ignored, and his divine spark returned to the coast. Earth would be saddled with everything you leave behind. That is not... He would... Alone, Lord Gorm. He would be alone against this terrible fate. The paladin stares at the reflected stars beneath his cape. Alone. Even a god cannot destroy the horrors of capital. Lord Gorm takes a cackling breath. His mind is racing. His pain is growing. But he listens. Wait for him to find the words. I am bound by duty above all. He covers his face with trembling hands. The last flash you see is the tears upon his dirty cheeks. I've never known a life beyond this helm. My lord often spoke of probability. He saw them, through his divine visions. Yet he could never tell me of my chances in this life. He could never tell with me. But he often asked me about my thoughts on risks, on how much I am willing to gamble, to sacrifice, in order to protect those who needed it most. He always told me I was reckless because I would always go for anything over a 50-50. What do you think the odds on the spell were going? I was hoping for a 50-50, but only Earth would know for sure. Lord Gorm places a hand upon the pommel of his sword. Most things in life are 50-50. It's our duty to lower the risk. His voice crackles behind the iron. Those are his words, written and spoken again and again. His mutated, twitching hand on the grip of that legendary blade. I've failed as a man and as a son. You can be redeemed, Lord Gorm. You can come back from this. You have fought bravely against impossible odds, Lord Gorm. He bows his head towards you. Tell me, brother, what is your name? I'm a wizard. Bran. Wizard. A wizard. He smiles behind his helmet. He is content. I place everything in your hands, Wizard of Norvik. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh! Oh! Fuck. You do not know if any of this is truly the right path, but it is done now. Lord Gorm has chosen his fray. Earth be blessed. You watch as the spirit is drawn towards the stairs. The last paladin of Earth, may the strings forget his failures. All of them. Though he will not be so easily forgotten. Cleric! What? Your companion is winded, his face glancing from side to side in the darkness. This place is fucking awful. Feels like I've been running around for hours. You okay? The sling in his hand, ready for a fight. What did I miss? I took care of the bad guy. You what? Does that mean Lord Gorm is dead? Lord Gorm, the missing paladin? That makes a lot of sense. So he blew up the tea shop? Well, the elf blew it up. Lord Gorm was partly responsible for the necklace of fireballs, though. His eyes light up. Ah, right. So it was a conflict. Gorm was part of the plot to blow up the necklace during the election, as was Pinja. Right, but Gorm was only faking it. What? Gorm was pretending to hate the city so the Ilum elves would fund his dark ritual, which would bring back Earth from the dead. But he also needed to kill 27 Earthfolk to finish the spell, which is why he needed the necklace of fireballs, but since Pinja blew it up, he was now planning on going out there and killing people by himself. Oh, I see. What? He invited me to join him, we talked, and... He invited you? I convinced him to stand down. Oh, he put his flame tongue through his chest and faded. It's over. Damn. How do we get back? There's a man on the steps. Who's the old guy? Breathe. It's finished. You've chosen well. The old man puts his hands behind his back. Before you go, I would wish to have a few words with you, but no hurry. Time is still now. You do not lose anything by taking a short rest, I assure you. You know who that is. This will be an interesting conversation. You're not done yet. Breathe. First, breathe. The flame tongue of Norvik. +3 strength. What a blade. A flame tongue. These legendary blades were forged during the Gate War. Many have been lost through the eras. Many have tried to replicate their power, yet this weapon remains beyond the grasp of even the greatest artificers of the modern age. This one belongs to Norvik, but for now, you may wield it as your own. Fucking, that's done. Found this bastard. Well, I think there's like an outro, but that's gonna have to be saved for a later point, because I am outie. I am outie to bouty, because I gotta be somewhere tonight. Oh, where'd my music go? They hate me. I guess if we were just playing Esoteric App, that does make sense. Didn't they announce a sequel to Disco Elysium? I don't know if it's a sequel, but Za is making what's it called? Something Parades? Zero Parades. No more 11-hour streams, not tonight. But alright, everybody, I gotta go. I'm gonna go party down at a coworker's house before I have to really study down into the RCA documentation that we're gonna be working with for the next month. I hope everybody has a good night. I will make a schedule, not tomorrow morning, maybe tomorrow morning. Maybe tomorrow morning, yeah. I will make sure, if you want to see me play a game next week, make sure to write it down in the suggestions. I have to start Undertale next week. Because my coworker said that they'll play Disco Elysium if I play Undertale, so we're gonna start that. And then I will also be seeing if I can play some other stuff that all the kids want. So I hope everybody has a good night. I will see everybody tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.